But I'm going to go Colston Loveland, though. I think Colston Loveland is the top guy on our board that we put together. I'm not going to ignore that. And I think he's a better fit for the Bears than Tyler Warren is, because I think Tyler Warren's just a little bit too similar to Cole Kmet. I think he's an upgrade over Cole Kmet, but they just play kind of the same role. I think Loveland gives you a little bit more juice in the passing game and also allows you to you can use him as a wide receiver with Cole Kmet still on the field, and then he also allows you to move on from Cole Kmet in a few years.
Yeah, I think Colston Loveland is far and away the easy pick here, in my opinion. I think he's a top 5 player in the class, and I think he's like a special talent, to be honest. I don't think I've had like the platform to really talk about my love for him, but I just think he is like maybe a step tier down from Brock Bowers and as a receiver, and then he can actually block as well too, a lot better than Bowers. So like I think we see like the Ben Johnsons and Sean Payton talk about this like joker element of their offense. Like Jahmyr Gibbs was that for the Lions last year with Ben Johnson, and then Sean Payton's had a ton of those guys, Reggie Bush, Jimmy Graham, like hybrid type players. And I think among this entire draft class, Colston Loveland is that to a T. He like really allows you to break defensive formations because he can separate as a wide receiver on the outside against press coverage and block in line. I mean, I think he's a better inline blocker than Tyler Warren. And I think he still has so much of a higher ceiling as a receiver too. So he's like far and away, I think would be my option here to take at number 10 if we're just looking at best player available.
I think that's a very good point that Tom brought up. And was it Ben Johnson or Ryan Poles talked about this in whatever interview it was? You kind of have to think about what you're going to get at 39 and 41 too. And you're definitely going to get a good interior defensive lineman at one of those picks. You're not going to get a good tight end, and you're probably not going to get a good offensive tackle, most likely.
Mr. Poles, I think Ben ran to the bathroom right when we were picking, so he can't give his 2 cents, but he preached body blows. Colston Loveland is the definition of body blows. I do have to say that, even though he wasn't one of my top 2 guys I would take here. I love the player. He is tough as nails, and he's going to make people hurt.
So this is
I'm sorry, I don't mean to prolong this conversation, but I just want to ask Q, what would be your reservations with taking a Colston Loveland? Because I know we talked about him earlier today, and I think you said you would take Warren over him. So I'm just curious, like, what is your downside there?
I would not take Warren over him.
Okay.
I think Warren is the safer pick.
I got you.
Colston Loveland plays with a reckless abandon for his safety, and he's already dealt with injury issues, and he has a frame that might have more injury issues. I have nightmares about Tyler Eifert when I watch him, because they're the same body type, and they have some similarities in the way they play. Tyler Warren plays very aggressively, but he also doesn't just like shuck his body full force into a 300-pound defensive lineman. There's some health stuff there that I think does go with that. And that's why I think Warren's safer. But Loveland is the better talent by far. And I adore the way the kid plays football.
Fair enough.
It's interesting because Q knows, you guys might not know. Like, I cover the Illini and the Big Ten as like outside here. So all these names that you guys are mentioning are people I am actually pretty familiar with. And my top 2 was actually similar to what Q's was. Harmon and Simmons, mainly because of the trenches. It's very lazy thinking. But Loveland, again, I it's fascinating hearing you guys talk about his ceiling being higher than Tyler's, because I just assumed Tyler, because I watched him his entire career, but I don't break down film. Well, Sonny Verma doesn't break down film. Sonny Poles, of course, does. So my thinking, and this is just my thought process right now, and Q knows this, once the Bears started losing games, for me, it was all about the development of Caleb. What's going to make Caleb let him reach the potential of becoming the Super Bowl quarterback for the Chicago Bears. And so I'm taking a look right now. I do believe in best player available. Loveland is interesting, and I'm kind of talking out the process now, because again, I wasn't really considering him before you guys talked. So let's go between Loveland and Harmon.
Kind of been talked into Loveland at this point, because I'd like to point this out. Our 39 or 41 board has a good amount of defensive line on it. Where we're talking like one in Kenneth Grant, Tyleik Williams, Darius Alexander, CJ West, Alfred Collins, Walter Nolan, a bunch of guys who you'd feel pretty content getting, and even down to like after that, like Omar Norman Lott is an animal. Like that, there's a lot of names at defensive tackle to like. At tight end, these are kind of the two different guys. Like they're on another tier than everyone else. So if that, I think that needs to be considered here. I'd still be good with Harmon. But
the question I'd have is, if Loveland and Warren weren't here, would we be considering drafting a tight end? Not necessarily in the first round, but is that a position of need in your guys' opinion? Or is this Loveland just, we really like his skill set, best player available, let's just get the most talent in the locker room, even if it's a position that most of us may not think it's in our top 5 needs?
I think the only way you're getting there is if you're just trying to kind of reimagine the Lions offense and you're like, Ben Johnson needs his Sam Laporta, because I don't think Cole Kmet is a Sam Laporta type. Like, I just don't think Cole Kmet has those receiving chops. And so maybe you're like, all right, we're going to take a shot at a complementary skill set to a Cole Kmet in round 2 or 3, in like Elijah Arroyo or, Mason Taylor. That's the only way I think you're getting there. But it really comes down for me. I just think Colston Loveland is just like that level of talent to where, like, the Bears didn't need Brock Bowers last year, but hey, if they took Brock Bowers, like, you know what I mean? Like, no one's complaining if you draft Brock Bowers. And I think it's a very similar situation. Like, that's how high I am on him.
Yeah. And I think in this draft particular, we have to be, especially at 10 here, you have to be I'm very hesitant to just draft for need, because this is a draft that is not the number of blue chip prospects are few and far between. There aren't that many, and a lot of them are off the board. I would put Colston Loveland in that blue chip prospect with like Derek Harmon as well. And I don't know if the other names in this tier are necessarily the blue chips for me. So I think Colston Loveland is the best player available. And yeah, the Bears don't necessarily need a tight end, but they need offensive playmakers. And I think he is, because you can play him in line, you can play him split out wide, you can throw him or in the slot, you can throw him screens, you can do all this different things with him and be very creative with him. And we just hired an offensive minded head coach who's very creative. And I think that is what you're getting. You're not just getting a tight end. Like, you're not getting another Cole Kmet who would be, redundant. You're getting a guy who you can kind of move around throughout the offense.
And I would also argue to our lovely general manager, Sonny Poles, that he also helps your blocking unit immediately when he steps in, because to me, he's the best inline blocker of all the tight ends. I think he's better than Warren. I think he would be better than Kmet, honestly. And I think you can just use him in a bunch of different alignments to be a blocker, to where he's adding a physical edge that you might be, Kmet's a fine blocker, but I think that, Loveland, is a well above average, especially with all he adds as a receiver as well. So I do think he helps like your run game, your trenches, is bringing a physical edge, like Hugh said, plays like a psycho, that maybe the team was lacking last year.
All right. The consensus seems to be Loveland. And as I said, my goal is what can I do to help Caleb become a future Super Bowl winning quarterback? And Loveland does fill that bill. So we'll take Colston Loveland then.
Yeah. Colston Loveland, it is at 10.